public prosecutions. He wouldn't have welcomed politicians telling him who he should prosecute and when. And as I say, it's really important that politicians keep out of sentencing matters.
Diane Abbott, thank you very much. Listening to that is the legal academic Yuan Yi Zhu, who is Senior Fellow at the centre-right think tank, the Policy Exchange. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
A word on the Sentencing Council. It's there for a reason. It's there to standardise sentencing, but also to be independent of political pressure. So in this case, it is surely serving its function, is it not?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, the council is doing what Parliament has told it to do, which is to come up with sentencing guidelines. So in that respect, I don't blame them for doing what they did. I think, however, that the guidelines are simply unacceptable as a matter of politics and as a matter of fairness, because they introduce a racial element in criminal sentencing, and that goes against the very fundamental principle that everyone is equal before the law, regardless of their race, which is why I think that the Lord Chancellor and the government are entirely correct in pushing back against the Council and in threatening to legislate to override these guidelines.
But the Council argues that its new guidance is intended to remedy what it calls a disparity in sentence outcome between white and non-white offenders. In other words, it is trying to put right a wrong.
The fact that there is a disparity, that there may be a disparity, does not suggest that the disparity is illegitimate. And moreover, if indeed there is a disparity caused by racism, the remedy is to stop being racist. The remedy is not to introduce a bigger racial element by way of guidelines into the legal system. Right? The way to stop discriminating is to stop discriminating.
Indeed, but how do you make that happen if you don't introduce guidelines along this route?
Well, I mean, the Sentencing Council is clear that they don't actually know what explains these disparities, that they don't know if the disparities can be explained by something quite inoffensive, or if indeed the disparities can only be accounted for because of some sort of structural racism. And so I think the first thing to do is really to have more research into this issue to determine why it is happening. But certainly, until we know why there are these disparities in the surface, we cannot introduce blanket policies which are based on racial discrimination. I think that is the wrong way to do things. That is putting the cart before the horse.
In general, do you believe that the Sentencing Council has overreached itself here?
I believe so. I mean, and again, on the one hand, they are simply doing what Parliament told them they could do. So in that regard, I don't blame Lord Justice David Williams for being surprised. But the fact is, Parliament traditionally has been the main mover in sentencing policy. Parliament has always had the power which it has used to determine what should be the range of punishment for any given crime. The Sentencing Council was only created in 2010. Before that, there was no body which issued legally binding sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
And the justice system coped perfectly fine in the absence of this quango, which is not accountable to the public, which is not accountable to Parliament. And I think the Lord Chancellor is absolutely correct in saying that she will look as part of a forthcoming review in sentencing, that she will examine whether the Council should have these powers.
Thank you very much for coming on. Yuan Yi Zhu, Senior Fellow at the centre-right think tank Policy Exchange.